지금 개버틀라 연장을 미마다 현도 정문역도 개별 중에 미만은 예 개별 중에 여배나 아니 앞에로나
Long live Long live Let the Dalai Lama
Return to Tibet!
Let the Dalai Lama
Return to Tibet!
Let the Dalai Lama
Return to Tibet!
Shame on Chinese government
Shame!
Shame on Chinese government
Shame!
Boycott Beijing Olympic
Boycott Beijing Olympic!
Boycott Beijing Olympic
Boycott Beijing Olympic!
Boycott Beijing Olympic
Boycott Beijing Olympic!
Free Tibet
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet
Free Tibet!
Free Hong
Derim Kubati Tandangaransu Europe Peki Shunutso Beg Tozu Cham Tashi Shesa Lane Ani Sushana Yui.
Speech by Ms. Tashi Shizetsang, President of Tibetan Youth Congress, Europe. Thank you.
유럽 페르시노 틴족네 찹슈제 안 넘버 2 상마라 다시들 슈예이 안 통마들라 수스탈리 테스타인기 별미망라 드링기 모게디 tradition이 아니니 타고네 투치치 슈예이 드링 안즈냠데 겨즈 듄라 유딩에기 담시데 아니 이게 돈에 아니 시추와시 Today, in exactly 1 month, the 2022 Winter Olympic Games will take place in Beijing, an event that will go down in history as the Genocide Games. It is an honor to stand here today in front of the UN in the presence of Tendul Wangchela and Golo Jigme, both living heroes who have sacrificed and risked their lives for the cause of Tibet. Right before coming here to Geneva today, Tendul Wangchela joined us in an action in Lausanne. Just 2 hours ago, we were in Lausanne and displayed a banner at the front entrance of the Olympic Museum calling for No Beijing 2022. This simple action that we did today forced the Olympic Museum staff to shut down the entire building. Our activists were stuck inside the building until local police arrived. They questioned us and took our personal information, but let us go eventually. This incident really is representative of the IOC's behavior and another proof of the failure of human rights. How is a big institution like the IOC afraid of young Tibetan activists who are protesting peacefully and non-violently? How ironic is it that they are calling the police on us as if we're the criminals, while they are letting China, the world's worst violator of human rights, host the Olympics once again. With the upcoming Olympics, the IOC gives the Chinese regime a platform to spread their propaganda and false narratives. But the Games are not only a chance for China to sportswash their human rights violations. The Games are also a chance for us to shine light to the situation, the grave human rights situation inside Tibet, inside East Turkestan, inside Hong Kong and China. Like never before, we have a number of countries boycotting the Genocide Games. This, dear brothers and sisters, is history in the making. So we must keep the momentum going, and we must keep pushing forward. We must call on other governments, sponsors, and athletes to follow suit and boycott Beijing 2022. Free Tibet, free East Turkestan, free Hong Kong, boycott Beijing 2022. Thank you.
Shunutsobe Sozo Teshizala Tushina Shui. Tine, Liu, once again, chube nalola sube tunde sobege ani kuzap jam Fanny Morel chone sushen na yui
Speech by Ms. Fanny Morel, leader, Fribourg section, STFA.
Tgsl. On behalf of the Swiss-Tibetan Friendship Association, I am calling for the diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Olympic Games in Beijing. Violations of international human rights law cannot be ignored under the pretext of Chinese domestic laws and affairs. The Tibetan question is a systemic problem affecting Tibetans and their host countries across the world. In this regard, the violations of human rights in Tibet are a transnational issue, one that cannot be considered as a mere internal matter for China. The use of various forms of violence has become systematic, being deployed to sanction dissidents and independent thinkers, to frighten citizens, and to silence witnesses. Yet, as quoted Thomas Büchli, president of the Swiss-Tibetan Friendship Association, the International Olympic Committee has shown itself to be in transition in the face of massive international criticism of the awarding of the 2022 Winter Olympics to Beijing and the further deterioration of the human rights situation in China. In 2008, China already pretended to commit itself to the Olympic values, which include the protection of human rights and human dignity. But the CCP did not honor its commitments. Tibetans stood up for their rights and freedoms. As the world prepared to celebrate the Olympic Games, their plea for help to the international community was suppressed by the Chinese authorities with mass violence. Tibetans and Tibet itself were further wardened with silence as repression intensified. Today, the human rights situation remains of significant concern. There are currently more than 5,000 political prisoners in Tibet, of whom more than 1,000 are in detention. Of these political prisoners, nearly 3,000 are from religious backgrounds. Past and ongoing violence is denied by the Chinese authorities with disconcerting impunity. The collective amnesia imposed by the party denigrates the memory of the victim and the suffering of Tibetans. It allows physical and psychological violence to persist and even makes it likely that new mass violence will occur in Tibet, but also against other communities in the territories that China considers its own. The Swiss-Tibetan Friendship Association has worked in cooperation with other Swiss-Tibetan organizations to lodge a complaint against the International Olympic Committee in July 2021, which was accepted by the national contact point of the OECD. But the International Olympic Committee refused to enter into any mediation proceedings. By choosing to overlook the serious human rights violation in China, the International Olympic Committee is complicit of the abuses committed against civilians. The diplomatic boycott of the Olympic Games in Beijing is a powerful message, a constant willingness to choose life and well-being of the people, to support them and fight for those whose lives are threatened. Tibetans strive for the right to exist as fully fledged individuals and to express their cultural identity without fear of persecution. Efforts must continue to advocate for human rights in China, particularly when it comes to issues of freedoms of expression, religion, assembly, and of movement, in order to secure sustainable peace that would benefit both Tibet and China. Le boycott diplomatique des Jeux olympiques de Pékin est un message fort, une volonté inébranlable de choisir la vie et le bien-être d'un peuple et de le soutenir et de se battre pour ceux dont la vie est menacée. Les Tibétains luttent pour leur droit d'exister en tant qu'individus à part entière et d'exprimer leur identité culturelle sans crainte de persécution. Les efforts doivent se poursuivre pour défendre les droits humains en Chine, notamment en ce qui concerne les libertés d'expression, de religion, de réunion et de mouvement, afin de garantir une paix durable qui en profiterait à la fois au Tibet mais également à la Chine. Tgsl.
투체나 참 Fanny Morel show. Tene mutune tanga nasugi ya mima da lendo ya kembe mutuna yui kamanga stingala. Tuche.
Hello. Long live! Long live! Long live! Go up, your mic is so stinky. Mongolia! Free Taiwanese! Free Taiwanese! No human rights! No human rights! No human rights! No human rights! Long live! Long live! Long live! Let the Dalai Lama! Let the Dalai Lama! We demand human rights! We demand human rights! We demand human rights! Stop the genocide in Tibet! Stop the genocide in Tibet! Stop the genocide in Uyghur! Stop the genocide in Uyghur! Stop the genocide in Uyghur! Stop the genocide in Hong Kong! Stop the genocide in Taiwanese! Stop the genocide in Taiwan! Stop the genocide in Southern Mongolia! Long live! Long live! Save Tibet!
Justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! Free in Uyghur! Free Uyghur! Free in Uyghur! Free Uyghur! Free in Tibet! Free in Tibet! Free in Tibet! Free in Tibet! Free in Hong Kong! Free in Hong Kong! Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Free for Uyghur! 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 Free for Tibet! Free for Tibet! Free for Tibet! Free for Tibet! China lies! China lies! China lies! China terrorists! China terrorists! China terrorists! China terrorists! We want justice! 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 Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Release all prisoners! Release all prisoners! Close the camp! 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 Uygurlarga azatlik! Uygurlarga azatlik! Uygurlarga azatlik! Uygurlarga azatlik! Thanks a lot, huh? Thanks.
Shame on Chinese government! Shame on Chinese government! Stop the culture of genocide! 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 In Mongolia! Stop the culture of genocide! Stop the culture of genocide! In Hong Kong! No human rights! No Olympic Games! No human rights! No Olympic Games! No human rights! No Olympic Games! In Iran! Stop the culture of genocide! In Mongolia! Stop the culture of genocide! In Hong Kong! Stop the culture of genocide! In Taiwan! Stop the culture of genocide! In Iran!
Serious big pime sobe so cham sitting yudun chone ane sushe na yui
Speech by Mrs. Siri Yudin Marseille, President of Tibet Women Association, Switzerland.
Pemi lana maybe uti chino konsekam ke chumpa chola kuja ngwen to soba tabeto 3 tega pebe Europe chiki yen to den wan chala cho tenje kutsa cham kanden somla da charo shesanla Sister Liechtenstein Peri Mima Tgsl ki Tgsl social zibe Timi number Chisu number Chapsi Zensur Kushap Tunju Wanjala Cho Europe Shuni Tunzo ki Tgsl Tashi Shizi Sanla Tana Shingi Sube Tunju Sopeki Kutsap Fanny Morrow Sus Yugur, Sobeki Kutsap, Mr. Sheriff, and Tana Shingi Mima Sensin Nange Yongla, near Susan Pu, Mr. Tsap Shute, Samji Don Kungam Sang Shueni, Toma de Sus, the Liechtenstein Peri Mima Tgsl, Tgsl social zibe team number, Green Day Yamje, Gizog, Tawang, Dun, Mogan Nambatella. In Tabane Tuchi Chase Shueni Penali Yebe Pumi So Gami Marshall Wolanganta than Jinang at the net nation bread Maranzo de Rawan Lumbala Jinang Tanganta Kai Maybe Tola Tin Tenyam J Gizog Tsogang Dundu Mogota Shutikabka Shiti Gabriela, Rawan Shazan Yore, Tesusa Trinte, Peripinta Yola, Suseki, Mirita, Giagab Kichetu Tuzutiampatella, Yening Tabani Tuchi Ches Shueni, Chitani, Maranzu Pegi Tenda de Masipato, Titavi Legu Pea, Yangaranzu Lingenta, Kitchimba Yamati Sami Kent Kenshibare. Trin Tega Yamje Gizo Togang Dun to Yinsang, Tana Shinki Tage Guni, Gangsen Jugu Yabata, and Maran Turkey, Shututi, Geji Mimatsol Yinsang, yet the Tikashish did my inchi ton shoot of shoe. First of all, thanks to the Tibetan community of Switzerland and Liechtenstein for organizing today's protest a protest to call for a diplomatic boycott of Olympic in China, and a protest to call on a human rights council to raise the issue of Tibet, Uyghur, Southern Mongolian, Hong Konger, Taiwanese, and Chinese democracy. Today, again we are gathered here to protest in front of the United Nations because we are free, whereas our brothers and sisters inside Tibet have no freedom to assemble like we do here today. They live under the constant fear and threat. The Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic is set to be happened amidst one of the world's crackdown against freedom, democracy, and human rights. The Tibetan Women Association was originally founded on 12th March 1959 in Tibet, a day after the 10th March uprising in Tibet against the illegal invention and occupation of Tibet by the Communist Party of China. In 1984, with the blessing of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan Women Association was officially reinstated with the 12 branches throughout India and later outside India, including Switzerland in 1988. The main objectives of the Tibetan Women Organization or Association is to raise the public awareness of the abuses faced by the Tibetan women and girls in Chinese-occupied Tibet. Apart that, we contribute to preserve and promote our distinct culture, social welfare, and the empowerment of women living in exile. Our members include women from all walks of life and from all the 3 provinces of Tibet. Immediately after the illegal occupation of Tibet by the CCP, Tibetan women in Tibet have faced forced abortion and compulsory sterilization, thereby suppressing their rights to reproduction till mid-1990s. Later, the brutal policy continued by imposing hefty sums as a fines. Instead, we have recorded statements of former political female prisoners being systematically raped by the Chinese prisons officers, and even the nuns are not spared. Tibetan girls are often coerced to marry Han Chinese. With awarding of the International Olympic Games in 2008 to China, due to the CCP Iron Fist rules and brutal crackdowns, many young girls and women self-immolated inside occupied Tibet, which includes students, lay women, nuns as young as 16 years old. Such extreme of the protest of giving up their lives shows the severity and brutality of the situation of Tibetans living inside Tibet. Yet, the awarding of Olympic 2022 to CCP by the International Olympic Committee means that the right of the women in Tibet, whatever little remains, if remained any, will be taken away completely. Just last month, Chinese government policies are forcing 3 out of 4 Tibetan students into a vast network of colonial boarding schools, separating 80% of the Tibetan children as young as 4 years Tibetan children from their parents and families and communities. The schools are cornerstone of the Xi Jinping campaign to eliminate the Tibetan identity and supplant it with the Chinese nationalist identity in order to naturalize exercise any resistance to Chinese Communist Party rule. The International Olympic Committee has failed to uphold Olympic values so far, but still have time to reverse past mistakes. Hosting the Games in a country committing genocide, ethnic cleansing, and occupation is akin to endorsing these crimes. Government and international community must boycott the Beijing of 2022 Games and take a stand to uphold the values of democracy, freedom, and human rights. Until the Chinese Communist Party respects rule of law, respect human rights in Tibet, I, on behalf of Tibetan Women Organization in Switzerland, urge all European diplomats, especially Swiss diplomats, to boycott Beijing Olympic inauguration of 2022 so that you will not be held accomplice to CCP rising violation of human rights in Tibetan people, Uyghur, Southern Mongolian, and Hong Kongers. Today, I, on behalf of Tibetan Women Organization in Switzerland, thanks to all our brothers and sisters for joining on this protest for the cause of our country and ethnic. Special thanks to all the supporters for joining here and always supporting us for the cause of Tibet. To conclude, I would pray for the long life to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and may justice prevail to the Tibetan struggle. Tamate Pemilana may be uti chino consequence chopuse yuring tembata pegi tenda new disabi kementu shui pegalo 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 shana
지우들라 투체나 데네 제림 중이 빠진 거는 저 스위스키 and 우구 쪽에 구섭 셰리프 쪽에 소시 나주이
Speech by Mr. Sharif, spokesperson, Swiss Uyghur Association.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, colleagues, and comrades. As a representative of the Swiss Uyghur Associations, first of all, I wish you all Happy New Year 2022. The Olympic Winter Games begins on February 4th, 2022 in Beijing. China constantly violates human rights that Swiss should not accept it. The Chinese government is particularly engaged in a state campaign aimed at persecuting and eliminating the Uyghur populations. A growing body of reports based on testimony from Uyghurs victims as well as abundant Chinese government documents show that the Chinese government is committing crime against the Uyghurs people. That recently, the People's Court in London, they announced the crime of China as a crime against humanity and genocide. Several parliaments in Western countries have already announced that in their eyes the Chinese government is really guilty of crimes against humanity and genocide against the local populations. An event like Olympic Games should make it possible to connect people between them through the athletes. But the Olympics should not be held in a dictatorship and genocidal countries like in Nazi Germany in 1936 and in China today. It's therefore unfortunate that the Chinese government, which sees it only as a source of profit and prestige, is seen to organize events which Chinese government never respect the rules of Olympic in its spirit. It's equally unfortunate that other governments are showing the support for it through the presence of official delegation in China. We regret that our country, Switzerland, which is in our eyes, it represents a model of respect for human rights, shows its support for dictatorship China, in which our people not only deprived of the rights, but also victims of such crimes, that we fear to see it disappear. We do not tolerate our Swiss government to send the official delegation to China to make the fiesta and the party in the concentration camp. On the other hand, we encourage the federal government to continue the dialogue with Chinese government, so the Chinese they could respect the human rights of Uyghurs and the Tibetans and the South Mongolians. As International Olympic Committee is located in Switzerland, in Lausanne, Swiss has a very special responsibility. We therefore also call on the Swiss government to honor the Olympic value and to ensure that in the future the competition venue are selected by doing them justice. Our struggle against the Chinese government regime will not end until there is one more person who is not free in East Turkestan, Tibet, Hong Kong, and South Mongolia. Thank you for your attention.
Tuchana Pushab Mr. Sharif and a teacher at Tangaransuki Zerim Choksumba Europe Piri Sobaka logo Sojan Niba and France Kesa Paris Sogab Treasure Shab Shidu Chari and a Pirimimaki Gule and a Sarakunga Lane Jalona Yui.
Reading of memorandum from the second general meeting of all heads of Tibetan communities in Europe by Kunga Sarala, board member Tgsl.
Des zweiten Treffens der tibetischen Gemeinschaft in Europa vom 18. und 19. Dezember 2021 in Paris wenden sich an Sie mit Hochachtung. Die Delegierten des Treffens vertreten tibetische Gemeinschaften in Europa aus Österreich, Belgien, Tschechien, Frankreich, Italien, Deutschland, Polen, Spanien, der Schweiz, den Niederlanden und dem Vereinigten Königreich. Die für Februar 2022 geplanten Olympischen Winterspiele in China werden dem totalitären kommunistischen Regime Chinas eine weitere unverdiente Gelegenheit bieten, seine Macht und seinen Einfluss zu demonstrieren und so die demokratischen Grundwerte von Wahrheit, Gleichheit und Gerechtigkeit in der Welt zu untergraben. China erhielt die Gelegenheit, 2008 die Olympischen Spiele in Peking auszurichten, mit dem Versprechen, seine Politik zu liberalisieren und die Menschenrechtslage in China zu verbessern. Aber die traurige Wahrheit ist, dass sich die Bedingungen in Tibet seit den Olympischen Spielen 2008 in Peking enorm verschlechtert haben, was zu Selbstverbrennungen von 156 Tibetern im besetzten China geführt hat. Tibet ist heute das am wenigsten freie Land der Welt auf einer Stufe mit Syrien. Der anhaltende Völkermord in Tibet, Xinjiang und der Südmongolei, der von der Kommunistischen Partei Chinas begangen wird, ist ein Verbrechen gegen die Menschlichkeit und China sollte für das von ihm zu verantwortende Unrecht zur Rechenschaft gezogen und nicht mit der Ausrichtung der prestigeträchtigten Olympischen Spiele belohnt werden. Die US-Regierung und gleichgesinnte Länder haben angekündigt,
wegen der sich verschärfenden Menschenrechtsprobleme in China keine Regierungsvertreter oder Diplomaten zu den Olympischen Winterspielen in Peking zu entsenden. Wir danken der US-Regierung und anderen Ländern für ihre entschiedene Haltung zur Menschenrechtslage in Tibet und Xinjiang. Tibeter und Tibet-Anhänger weltweit rufen zu einem diplomatischen Boykott der Olympischen Winterspiele in Peking auf, um China eine starke Botschaft zu senden, dass die freie Welt Chinas Straflosigkeit nicht länger tolerieren wird. Daher fordern wir die EU-Kommission und die EU-Mitgliedstaaten auf, dasselbe zu tun und solidarisch mit dem tibetischen Volk und anderen Minderheiten zu sein, die unter dem chinesischen Regime leiden. Hochachtungsvoll die Delegierten des zweiten Treffens der tibetischen Gemeinschaft in Paris.
투천아 서kun거나 네 제림 주시바디 아니 단다 원적 미만에 라야 원적 김변나주이 까망가링가나
Let's make China accountable. No human rights. Olympic Games. No human rights. No Olympic Games. United Nations. United Nations. Wake up, wake up. United Nations. Wake up, wake up. United Nations.
Wake up, wake up!
United Nations.
Wake up, wake up!
No more sleeping.
UNO!
No more sleeping.
UNO!
No more sleeping.
UNO!
No human rights.
No Olympic Games!
No human rights.
No Olympic Games!
Stop culture genocide. Stop culture genocide.
Never show!
Karımcı kuzi şametten başla.
Never show!
Ödün yurdu sevaçla.
Never show!
Doktor çıktı nangı.
투천아 제림 정어바디 아니 진호 고스탄구 여와 탐지 캠베 구지 이름 땜바다 왜 개갑다 미리 그 자된체 류소 농주 단체 벌레 단계 계제 법은 넘게 체도 아니 샤데나 조이 원지 유럽 지디 게임 원전알이야 렌디슈에이
and prayers to our martyrs and all people suffering under CCP rule.
Ramjan Yave Saso Maluba Gandhi Chenya Chaven Juju Sishi Gile Gunjo Yishe No Ngoye Jinjen Lame Zonam Taja Donsho Tabe Sondem Na Ganchen Gombo Tenzin Yazo Koze Meshe Geja Rabde 现得人间着外境界罗却也归山可当娘着对这这些一些就没上面等当等北经过多下月也当拉做当街大家都说这个孙的那感情广播电视家族 各自没些各家绕的些，现在人间着外境界，帮到远的人做起来个，那晚着干家做大的，骗子多着那晚来也了，让家的孙家娃当着。 大家都说这个孙的那感情广播电视家族，各自没些各家绕的，现在人跟着把经给了，几点送来干给爱着，吃到些话南家那边，上面没有个山给外边，再转单北去给着南。 大家同学这边圣诞呢，感情广播电真家族，各自没些给家拉点子，现在人间着我今天落西北出国将拉去吧，得等我上家园一些。南大多街转来没着吧，热着旁边跟着他们家，大家同学这边圣诞呢，感情广播电真家族，没些给家热的。现在人间着我今天落卡去现大内容的这这段娘家这边在做年就南山着蓝着这边那双把我看着做能大家都说这边顺的感情广播电真家族各自没些给家拉的，现在人家着我今天多些抢给各大茶给的，免得人为得的那个。电当电真将为兔子这一些简单电送家族，大家同学这边送的那感情广播电真。各自没些给家热的，现在人间着我今天落得得落面家给说能手掌年年给别是的，没些年没送我让那位大嫂感觉这位关键，我落上电真家族就是说没些没牛没牛。相信用战多节宁波节给我家族有面大的，让家我跟前这边过年多差不多3月，起来跟边那边宁波节写我这些人家，在顿中间给上南边，日前爱说几多大的。托等做做更多让大人给些谢谢节目解决强南北面起来对解决大说应该说说的感谢主吧区别让你为国上求救要做他做民众世界要为起来当等的罗瓦美为大概拉上大白土豆门板灯给拉牛多小刚日那位国外香港的潘丹的话马路中外呢今日生活电真家作业下边是的把多电有来接刚日那位国外香港的潘丹的话马路中外呢今日生活电真家作业下边是的把多电有来接刚日那位国外香港的潘丹的马路中外呢今日生活电真下边是的把多电有来接电子木兰送军前面远的牙齿本啊些娘中着啦国际大大光北这双的是三大罗马街大爷的妹妹啊的关系，这些东西样子都白的，咱们样白 pen de be do ge天真开当着为给我那么吃着南着茶哇白袜子面色冷眼茶杯要能白把面多给那位娘们当着世间的这么个这把个，现在的个家子哦样子，开把那干中全的跟着那么那着拉了半夜。在门都年过将白茶大起个鸟都这白拖着拖半个年满天个nhớ bé lan chưa kia ra xe nhẹ bỏ kia về nhẹ dễ yêu nhẹ sẽ kia về số năm lan đó mê 영도 자만제 자외 빼라줘 레내년도 나베드 베드 영조 변조라와 자매배 현도 주세성대가 된라 최백에서 뇨와 뇨도 다 된전 샵세라를 제벨 솔론저 용단데 가와 야다 조베기 원남 정전권대 도지 경완저 도나 권보제레세 왕계 세제개베 정하간제신 영조 자체물람 간제배 전산된된 요도 차와서 남도 천이 삼은 댄데다 초섬도 제도단 댄즈도 랜데 로미 댄드 다자기 댄베말랑게 메뇨도 쇼 chanju semjo rimboche maye banama ke gyoji kewa nyamba meba ya gwane gwando hewara sho pama semje tamje dedan dengyoroji ngendo tamje dado tongwadang chanjo semba gana soshoba deda genge molam jogyoroji temba jede kamso jembadang temba nye shindo sewadang tenze pono shindo tumbayi temba yure nebe tashi sho kewa gundo yanda lamanda Deme chege bela longje sada lamge yönde rabzo de doje change gomba nyodo sho melama lobe yawe dembala kowe najo soje somende 삼조 년배 조바 말르바 초선 덴배 제네 제교로지
영어질라 투시나 아니 제림 중어바디 아니 비리미마 초션에 토체 손션난교이
Vote of thanks from Mr. Tgsl, Vice President Tgsl.
다른 원한주기 아니 친다 당배기 체바 시니모기 다 점블리 점링기 아니 어제기 올림픽 챔피언드 아니 다 레벨냐베기 다 다와직 두주 딱딱이 두주 니모텔라 카르 아니 유럽 나라 프리 초베기 아니 초전 탱입에 나오노라 안 도시게 두주 샤바나 신게 시계체베 레고직 다른 차디기 요래 아니 델리 지기나 데베기 단당가라주기 유럽기 지디 kushyo tudin wajila cho taga nashingi ani ngaransu ki ani tenjo legune kungo tanda chikyo na sha kungo chimere zila cho taga nashingi ani lero namba tedan tewe ki chidu suba namba ani piring maga chozo cho taga nashingi ngaransu dinala ani tumi lero namba gonda dinyo la tada tishu ngaranzu 초박하게 단단 ngaranzu기 야 초조 초쇼기 체데 마치로치기도 디나라 ngaranzu 믹세게 단단 디나라 아니 ngaranzu 피메 초백게 초조 다가나 신슈누기 아니 초조 아니 대단 제베기 단단 ngaranzu기 아니 수베 자리 초백게 다가나 신기 아니 구잡 아니 단나 초 라고 예배고는 슈딩기 ngaranzu 우구 메리기 군나주 탑주 넘버기 아니 초조다 다가나 신기 군나주기 차로 되게 상물로 라타리 대 ngaranzu 대 점지 중마 대라 대다 냠도라 다린 대라 키나zu 참에기 냠슈나 버들레기 아니 스위스 레겐체 페리마게 삽시데 니 탁번에 투셰슈기 아니 디마세게 탄다 ngaranzu기 아니 레규카 니버티 시자체베 레규 찍데 모두 친다 니베게 세버 숨 차디기 요래 아니 디캅술라 아니 니슈기 ngaranzu 스위스 레겐체 페리마게 산에 소중 거와 요베 있네 페버 가주 여버 얘네야 아니 무저게 말에 린디슈에 가르 슈반 디감라 니슈 감마마 나토에게 아니 베즈에 나오로나스 아니 조선나 나오로나슈에 디캅슬랑라스 유럽 나오로네 페르소바타 스위스 주거스 멤버체 아니 페르소바시 저머니 체 벨지엄 프랑스 타가나싱기 네덜랜드 나소바기 ngo르카 추시스야라 쿠나 사메익 냠슈낭게 요레 아니 데라 아니 ngaranzu peri chobeke ani peri mimagi naliyebeke sane sojo pemi yodocho samolo ani tinala nyamshu naro nas yege tarende pegu shuguye dichigi ani ta taringi ani unishina zerimti gochudu kala tesi chitaso ani dilhenge sogi de ani kinazu gonse shuyi tedan tebege tarinde de so chechi tandan kinazu ge kengwa chi karesingi ani europe ki nalo la ani debate chi kunaji ani boycott Beijing Olympic 2022 ki ani boycott chi dodigi yore ani de la kinazu kesi ya live in the sido yobe na dina la kinazu ya si tuna yapu yore shwe an tari tela ani sangi te ani pigi Europe Iran nalo la ani dwelling tugu yodu ka la tari mixe ge de la ani ngozi dwami topta gyapjo chokpa ta debe ki tanda ngozi sargu cho France ki ani live la ani tedo la kunza discussion che ngozi debate tugu yore dila tari perima di chugas mo shimba gi nyamshu na ya chung yore an ti ngara zu kebu sangbu yin sanggu do tu chena shwe di ko la so chone de nyamshu na tu ba de la ani timingi tanda 아니 공도 쉬거나 쉬래 다니 기념슈 나게 터디 나게 아니 디조 체슈게 당가란지 미마래 아니 미마 아니 디나냠슈 나게 아니 초다가네 팽에 다슈게 추즈 카셰 추즈 나바스니 야샤니 팽에 된데 두 되게 차산로라 예 제수이란 슈고요 아니 디나 신게 탄다데 가란수기 다 레기 가란수기 나 투에 된 가란수기 카레스 슈고이나 아니 가란수기 아니 전소 빠져라 가란수기 마시 봐도라 가란수기 베베 미시키디어 고는 순사송 아니 가란수 접시기 아니 가란수 깨발래 고래 베 미리시가 깨발래 이두가 내가 딘데 간라 아니 가란수 슈게디 가란수 개 첨부래 디 인두가라 디다 무즈기 죄 미거 토네 아니 수수기 칸체 투투 아니 배제 제야다 내가 갱아라주기 미리 딜라 갱구 여버데 가레스나 가라주 베베 탑주도 차디기 요래 베베 탑주디 가라주 베 미리 랑기 제구고라 마도 무슨 미리 심바기 지기 말해 디 제두게 말해 랑 가라주기 디 가라주기 레바 캐시랑 어디 당 어주기 마선에다 수데 랩토 란차디기 요래 디 인두칼라 단당 안주 뒤제 값서 안주기 나 투베이나 나 투버레 디 멤버이나 가라주 미기 다 미라 사바 마 인두칼라 무슨 마 카주스나 투고 여버디 완주 셰주 티기 말해 제자 가라주 디나라 다니냠슈 나게 다가나시기 태동싱에 요래 계란주기 나 페바이 상구 여버이나 공구 여버이나 텐데 가라주기 우 마체 바둘라 완주기 소구디기 샤다 미리 디나로네 고유디가라 간주기 탑주디 가라주기 미리기 탑주 차디기 요래 미리 탑주도 미리 샨다 마도 탑주 가레스나 간주레 템바 요래 템바데 가레 슈베이나 아니 간주기 겸 미리기 간주 벼 세소지 심바다 세바다 다가나 신기 겸이기 나나 단다 치단 지어와 디게 창마 템바 멤버디 세부레디 가라주 디 쯔에디 가라주기 미션 세네레 가라주 미리기 탑주 차디기 요래 디 간주기 벼바 이마 차는 간주 뽑아지키고 요르디 미리 샤바디 싸원이 요 말에 대 오저 미리디기 오저기 미기 밀루 깨발내버들 오저 그쳐버지 가란스랑게 쇠구여 마도 오저기 베베 미리지 단다 탑주기 지나 오저기 밀루 깨버지네 대내 오저기 가연 수저기 미제나라 단다 오저기 빼치나 미수수 게르기 코나기 미제 주고스나 오저기 집에 달라 공부 마셔비나 아니 오저데 탑큐보다 더가는 신기 오저 미제디 초라리 상고도디 디인도 가나 다니케 넘버 핑에디기 상말로라 예인 타번나 도체슈에 아니 단다 아니 망부지 오저게 단다 공부 쉬제 단다 차례네 공부 나 말아버치네 근데 중에 근데 중소 아니 근데 다니 패투고도 탑지 오저게 가가 탑시 제버이 이네 패투 마소 아니 대라 꾸지 공개 공다 수중에 망부 중스데 가라 아니 되게 참말로 다가나 신기 모투네 단다 진짜 200개 채 아니 숨기니 모델라 키라즈라리아 공부 쉬 탑시나제 아니 냠좀 나오르나스 딩가난 사메게 겐구레 간 사메 티베 랭게 차기여레 안 텔라 키나 사메게 냠슈 나오이나 아니 니마치 땅바이네레 디가 주직 땅바이네레 가나 저기 주직 땅바디 고저기 미미세 나올라 베베 미세 나올라 디 땅 초바 땅고 초바지 레서부디 디 나올라 디멘게 아니 레가카 만다 망고 여르 계신부 레디네 다들 껍스 파베 고나즈 미리 딜 차디기 디가나 안 텔라 키나 저기 라야게 슈모고 토네 공바 아니 셰로나스 아니 다른 데라 키나즈 빙에 정말 라야 도시에 쉐이 냠돌라 탄다디 남시 탄다야 장가스도 연구도 데네야 탄다디 제나 주저 시버스네 고저 차바기 남시도 연구도 제자 키나즈 파 로페디가라 키나즈 삽소도 잡고 나로나 알라야 탄다 진다 니베게 체 숨기니 못달라야 마체 찍니 못달라 원다도 체도 투두고도 데니 못은 고저 로산라 아니 고저 냠좀 제 데라라야 제 초고 제슈아이 안 행가 저 투제 체나 페게라